So, hello. I wanted to record this video because I'm currently in Crete, as you can probably tell from the background. It isn't one of those virtual backgrounds, it's real, as you'll be able to tell as this video probably goes on, by the fact that even though I'm wearing something really, quite airy, I do not cope well in the heat, and I know a lot of you are going to be thinking, well, Jason, first world problems. But the reason for this video is the other morning, I released a video on my Facebook page and on YouTube which talked about me having a breakthrough with my mediumship, and I really felt that I'd turned a bit of a corner after many months of questioning myself, my ability, can I do it, have I got what it takes? And a lot of you put messages on and comments on that video that basically said some of you were feeling the same, some of you really found that it motivated you because you were experiencing some of the same problems or challenges even. So what I wanted to do was do this video today. You will see me looking down a little bit at my soul journal, my diary, but I wanted to do this video just to talk in a little more detail about some of the things I talked about the other day. So firstly, my background into mediumship. Why did I even start on this journey? Well, I'll tell you. It all started actually here in this very hotel in Crete 2 years ago. My mum and I, who we're both very close, my mum had me when she was 18, and we've kind of grown up together, and at times I feel like I've been a bit of the parent, as I'm sure a lot of people with a young mum can relate. We were having a conversation about death, and look, I'm already sweating, so hot. We were having a conversation about death, just talking about dying and things like that, and I just said to my mum, I don't want to talk about this. Death scares me. I just can't get my head around the fact that you're born, you work all your life to achieve something, and then you go into old age and then you're dead and then that's it. And I just said to her, look, I'm really not comfortable talking about it because it just makes me really sad. And she then, out of her suitcase, got me a book, which was a book called Proof of Heaven, and it was by an author called Teresa Chung, I believe. And the book and the author, she's researched thousands of near-death experiences, and the book talks about kind of the lessons and the conclusions that she's arrived at from researching thousands of near-death experiences. And I actually read that book remarkably quickly for me because I'm a nightmare when it comes to reading a book. It takes me absolutely forever. 6 months is quick for me to get through a book because I'll read a section, then I won't pick it up for a few days, then I'll have to go back and read the section again. Sometimes I'll read a section that I need to immediately go back because I feel it hasn't got into my brain. And I did actually think for a long time, well, recently, that I've got ADHD, but I'm starting to question if I have, or if I do have it, perhaps it's only mild. So I read this book and it sort of sent me, it was a catalyst really, that started to make me question, well, I've always had a kind of inkling that the spirit world was real, and I was in a position where I had to see something to believe it, and I'm very, very evidence-based, and probably a big part of that comes from my earlier career as a police officer in my mid-20s. And my granddad was actually a medium. He was a tarot reader, a medium, a psychic. He passed away a good 15 years ago now. But growing up, he used to be at the spiritualist church all the time with my nan. And he was very well known. This was before the days of Zoom. And I remember he used to have people travel from the farthest tips of Scotland all the way down to where he lived in Southampton to come and get a reading off of him. And everyone seemed to know him. But back then, I didn't really think too much of it because, like when you're young, I just kind of knew that's what he did. And obviously, in hindsight now, if he was here, well, he is around actually, that's another part of the story which I'm going to talk about in a minute, I would ask him 1,000,001 questions. So he was a medium, very well known, used to do a lot of platform work. And that book kind of acted as a catalyst, and that led me on to read other books, one of which was Proof of Heaven by Dr. Eben Alexander, who was on the podcast not so long ago. What really struck me about his book was the fact that he was a neurosurgeon with very much a materialistic kind of worldview. And when I read his book and where he'd kind of come from prior to his 7-day near-death experience to where he was afterwards, again, that acted as a catalyst. So I then proceeded after that to go and see a couple of mediums. One was not so good, but one was good. And then I booked on with her kind of a few days of doing some like entry work into psychic and mediumship. And it was when I was with her, she just made a passing comment about the Findlay College and being like the Cambridge of mediumship and psychic sciences and stuff. And when I left hers that day, I went online and came across the Findlay College, which if you followed me for a while now, you will have heard me talk about it before. But what happened was I went on the website, I booked a course, and the course I booked was in September of 23. And it was a course by the president, actually, of the Spiritualist National Union, Jackie Wright, and Paul Jacobs, and another very highly regarded medium, Sally Barnes, was on the course. So I went there not knowing anything about the college, really, what I was getting into. I just turned up with a really open mind. And I think at that point, I was just, okay, I'm going to give it a go. No fear, no nothing. All I went there with, and the only thing that I wanted to achieve from that couple of days, well, it's not a couple of days, it was a week. What am I on about? I was there for 7 nights. I put on the form because when you go to the college, they get you to write out what you want to achieve or any comments that you've got. And I just put down that I wanted undeniable proof that the spirit world was real. Because at that point, I believed in the spirit world. I definitely 100% believed. No, actually, I can't say I 100% believed in it because I wanted undeniable proof. But I was fairly certain that the spirit world was real. And what was my driving force in that more than anything was it wasn't so much the books that I'd read, because obviously I didn't know the authors. The books did confirm in my mind that, hang on a minute, something's going on here. But the point I kept coming back to was the fact that my granddad was a medium, very intelligent man, and he wouldn't, obviously knowing my granddad, tell me anything that wasn't true. So I went into that week at the college very, very open-minded, and I got proof pretty early on, the undeniable proof that I was seeking, and that came in the form of my granddad coming through on a reading that another medium did. And not only did he come through with very concrete evidence, his personality came through, his mannerisms, and the evidence just absolutely blew me away to the point where I was very, very emotional. As the week went on, I did readings and they were 100% accurate. I didn't know how I was doing them. I didn't know how the information was coming to me, but it was. And the people that I was doing the readings for said to me, Jason, everything you've said is right. I think the real absolutely bolt out of the blue moment that really made me realise was Paul Jacobs, internationally renowned medium. He was on the podcast at the very beginning. I think he was the 3rd episode. He was doing a demonstration in the Arthur Findlay lecture room as such, and there was about 50 of us. And the exercise was, he was bringing up a couple of quite experienced mediums, and the premise of the exercise was, rather than sort of say what spirit person you had with you, what he was looking for was for the person doing the reading on the platform, the medium, to be certain of where in the room that spirit communicator, who they could be with, rather than just sort of throwing it out, actually having a bit more certainty, and it's for you, it's for you. Anyway, a couple of the experienced mediums went up, and then he said to me, Jason, would you like to come up? Now, I wasn't going to turn down the opportunity, so I just went straight up there, not really giving it too much thought. And anyway, much to my surprise, as soon as I went up there, Paul said to me, Jason, where do you feel in the room this person could belong to? And with no hesitation at all, I don't know how it came to me, I just said, the lady straight down the middle in the orange. And anyway, then what happened was I got the relationship right, the name right, the job right, the occupation, then it just went on and on for 5 minutes and everything I did was right. Anyway, I then left the Arthur Findlay College in a bit, well, first of all, I left the Arthur Findlay College super sensitive. I remember one of the first things I did when I got back was I went in my local Sainsbury's, and I was just so sensitive, like it was just sensory overload, all the sounds on the checkouts. I've always been sensitive to sound, but never to the fact that I wanted to go into Sainsbury's and walk immediately straight back out because it was overwhelming. But I then proceeded to try and do some readings after that week at the Arthur Findlay College. And what happened to me was I lost all confidence, because I think, one, I didn't really understand how I'd managed to do it in the Arthur Findlay College and how I managed to do such accurate readings. And then when I left, I couldn't understand why it wasn't working. I then kind of found out through a couple of other mediums and through my own inner knowing. But what the spirit world had done was they had dangled a massive carrot in front of me, a big, shiny, orange carrot, to say, Jason, this is your potential, but boy, you've got to work for it. So where are we now? We're now in June, and obviously I went to the college last September. And over the last few months, obviously I've been doing the Soul Sync podcast, and I've learned a hell of a lot from that, which, you know, I've been so fortunate. At times the Soul Sync has really tested me, but the Soul Sync hasn't tested me. It's my own madness in you know, overloading myself and still doing my day job at the same time. But what I have been trying to do is to fully understand, first of all, the difference between meditation and sitting in the power, or sitting in the presence, or sitting in your own energy, whatever you might want to call it. So it took me a while to understand that, because I couldn't understand what the bloody hell sitting in the power was. And despite the fact I must have had God knows how many mediums on the podcast and not on the podcast explain it to me, it still made absolutely no sense. I understood it from a mechanical point of view. It made sense to me mechanically, but it didn't make sense because I hadn't experienced it. So what I've been trying to do, and I think the purpose of this video today, is to share my experiences so they can help any of you that might, you know, be on your own development journey. So I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned so far. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is meditation, because I have struggled with it. And there is a difference between meditation and sitting in the power. And I'm going to keep this very simple, because I am a very simple person. That doesn't sound very right, does it? I want to keep it simple so it's not overcomplicated. This is the way that I see it. Now, meditation for me is about clearing my mind, relaxing, becoming an empty vessel. Because if you've got, and I know this myself, I run a business, and my God, my days are full at times. But if I've got all the stresses of the day built up, loads of things going round in my mind, and my mind is really busy, what I used to do was I used to try and sit in the power. So this is how it would go. I would be getting from work, rush around, then I would make an appointment with my spirit team, and that is something that you should do. You should always make an appointment beforehand and send the intention up of the time you're going to work. Like you would do if you wanted to go get your hair cut, you'd make an appointment, because spirit people are real people. You know, they are, you know, they're not, they are real. You have to make an appointment with them. If you want to do that, it's a good practice to get into. Anyway, I would come out the busyness of my day, be rushing around, meal prepping for the next day, getting my lunch ready, looking at the clock, right, it's 8:55, 9 o'clock, jump in the chair, I'm going to do my sit in the power. And nothing was happening. I would sit there, and what it made me realise is, Jason, you can't go from being busy to straight away jumping in the chair to connect with spirit. You need to have a wind down period. And what I have come to learn is that meditation is exactly that. And another thing, I'm going to dispel a couple of other sort of misconceptions about meditation. You do not need to be sat down cross-legged in the lotus position to do it. Because when I first started, I would think, right, I've got to sit down, I've got to have my back up straight in a really vertical line. I've got to sit on a special cushion with my legs cross-legged, up like that. You don't have to do that. You've got to find somewhere that's comfortable. What I've tended to do when it comes to meditation is I will sit in the same chair every day because it's familiar. I know that's my meditation chair, but you don't need a special chair. Sometimes I think one of the best places to meditate is out in nature, and sometimes I just, do you know what, I'm actually really embracing nature this year, but not that I didn't before, but I'm just looking at nature in a whole different way. And now the summer's come, I absolutely love getting out there and using it as a chance to meditate. Now, coming on to sitting in the power, which the phrase has been coined, where I'm up to at the moment and how I see it is sitting in the power is basically sitting in your own energy. Now, like I explained in the Facebook video the other day, I feel at times recently I've just been sat waiting for spirit to come and nothing's been happening that I perceive anyway. And I've become a bit disheartened because I'd sort of sit there going, right, okay, I'm ready for spirit, and then, you know, I feel like I'm just sitting there at a bus stop and nothing's coming along. But what I have come to realise is just because I perceive nothing is happening, my perception is telling me nothing is happening, actually stuff is happening. Spirit is always around us, always. And you just might, what your spirit team might be doing is just because you're sitting there and you don't perceive anything is happening, chances are your spirit team are sitting there and actually working with your energy. So one of the first challenges I've come across since I started with my tutor was I've realised that step number one to really working on mediumship, for me anyway, and all of this video is about my experiences. I'm not teaching you how to do it necessarily, because what works for me might not work for you, but mechanically I think what I'm saying is correct from the research, the conversations and my own experiences. So I want to keep saying that because one thing I've noticed since I've started on this mediumship journey is a lot of people, me included, and a lot of experienced mediums and friends of mine have said this, is you can get very caught up in giving your power away to a teacher. What do I mean by that? I mean, you might have a teacher and then you might latch on to think that's the way that you do it, and then you give all your power away to that person's methodology. Mediumship, in my mind, at this stage, is not an exact science. It is different for each person. However, that being said, the journey that I've been on recently is all about getting to know what my own energy feels like. Because for me to understand when I've got a spirit person with me, and this has been a big problem that I've had, is understanding, is it me or is it spirit? Is it my mind or is it spirit? Well, what I needed to be able to do is distinguish the difference in energy between my own energy and the energy of the spirit communicator. And what I've been doing recently is really starting to understand what my own energy feels like. So one of the exercises that I've done recently is I will imagine a column of energy above my head, slightly wider than the width of my body. And I will close my eyes and I will visualize this column of energy coming down. And as it comes down through my body and just goes down and down, it will act in a smoothing effect where I'm imagining that it's smoothing and calming my energy, and I will do that all the way till it gets to just under my feet. And I can actually, on most times I do it, actually feel the energy as it's going down and creating that smoothing effect. Then what I've been doing, and this was from the advice of my tutor and it works very well for me, is I will imagine a cylinder of light, no bigger than really a golf ball, and I will visualize this cylinder of light in my solar plexus, and I will think about the clarity of the light, the sort of shade of the light, the vibrancy of the light. I will take a moment to get accustomed with that light. Then I will visualize the light going down through my sacral and root chakra, all the way down to just under my feet. Then I will return back to the light, the cylinder of light in my solar plexus, and I will visualize it going up through my heart center, through my throat chakra, my third eye, through my crown. Then eventually I will picture this beam of light going up, And by it going up, that is connecting me with my higher consciousness, my spirit team, and so on. And this exercise doesn't take long. The whole exercise takes no more than maybe 4 or 5 minutes, because I work quite quickly. Some people might need a bit of a longer warm-up time. For me, 4 or 5 minutes is absolutely fine. And what I normally do is I play a recording of just myself talking through it at a speed that I'm happy with, and I'll put my headphones on and listen to that. Then what I sometimes do is I will imagine myself, my feet, on a ball of light. And really what I'm doing mechanically in this process is I'm extending out my aura. So, extending out your aura is pushing out your energy to make room for the spirit world. I'm starting to realise this video, I thought this would be a quick 20-minute video, but I don't think it's going to be that. There's actually quite a lot to say on this subject. But I had to stop that and do a quick cut as my mum was calling me to tell me dinner's soon, which I know about. So that's what I do to get to know my own energy. Then as the process goes on, what I've needed to do is distinguish the difference between my energy and get to learn what spirit energy feels like. So I will invite, using intention, and I will talk about the power of intention a bit more in a moment, I will invite my spirit guide or spirit person to come, touch my shoulder, come into my space, and let me see what it feels like. And I can distinguish the difference now immediately. What I've tended to find, and this is obviously going to be different for everyone, is as soon as spirit people get close, I feel my temples throbbing and almost vibrating. And on some of the occasions where I've had spirit come close, I've literally felt an abundance of love pouring through me like never before. It's probably the best feeling that I have ever experienced. So I want to talk about intention because I think intention is very, very important. When you set out on to do one of these kind of exercises or a meditation, you don't always need an intention, but the power of intention is everything. If you want to, for instance, get some inspiration, you might want to have a particular question. You might want to say, what do I need to know today? Setting an intention is really important. So yes, where else am I going with this? Another thing that I wanted to say as well is I think this is where I've been falling down a bit of a rabbit hole as well, is as soon as I've been feeling spirit come close to me, I've been getting very, very, very excited. And what then typically tends to happen is I will ask a question or a long question or ask a couple of questions. And my friend Sarah Deverell, who's also been on the podcast, sent me a really helpful extract of a couple of pages in a book, which was, the author was Ursula Roberts, and it's a really good book. I've actually just ordered it because the extracts were so helpful. It was almost like Sarah just sent me what I needed in that exact moment. But, you know, you've got to, I think, and what the book says is you've got to bear in mind that you're talking to a person here, and if you suddenly feel the connection, then throw out, you know, 2 questions or 3 questions, you know, you're going to overwhelm the person. And I think the best practice, and what I'm starting to learn, is once you feel the spirit person, ask a clear question, but ask it concisely, and then just wait with no expectation. I have learnt that expectation is one of the biggest ways to stop spirit communication. It's just like a blocker. You've just got to sit and just be calm with no expectation, you know, and just wait. And my problem, a big problem I've had throughout my mediumship so far, is expectation. I will go into a meditation or a sitting in the power exercise with an expectation, wanting something to happen. I'll feel the spirit person, then I'll have an expectation. But it's just a blocker. You've just got to kind of drop that. So what else did I want to say? Because there was something else. Yes, is it me or is it my imagination is another point that I have well, to be honest with you, it's a point that's been going around in my mind for a long time when I do a reading. Is it me? Have I just thought of that? Or is it a spirit person? What I am coming to realise is when it's imagination, I think... So, and the Ursula Roberts book does say this. It says when it's imagination rather than spirit, the thinker visualises the picture before it is seen. And if it is of a psychic origin, normally the picture is seen first and thought about afterwards. I'm getting to realise now that obviously I know my own mind, I know the way I think, I know the way that my brain works. And when I'm getting something from spirit, it normally, the book is right actually, because I will see it and then because it's come to me in my mind, I will then think about it afterwards, the relevance of it. And the book is right. When you do tend to imagine something, you tend to visualise it before it is seen. So I hope that makes sense. And I'm starting to get to realise now that when it is spirit, I know it's spirit because I get this thing going on with my temples. Some of the other things that I've been wanting to talk about as well is the importance of having a journal. For a very long time now, I've been kidding myself that a digital diary was the way to go. Nothing beats good old-fashioned paper, I have to say. Not only is it nostalgic, but it also keeps you a bit accountable as well. And I'm finding it really useful to actually go back and read some of my notes. And I know I've referred to this Ursula Roberts book quite a lot today, but she says as well in the book that some clairvoyants might see 2 weeks ahead. They might get a name from spirit, which in the future then has relevance. But some clairvoyants can get something through in a reading or something that comes to them, and then 6 months down the line, it could show its relevance. So when things are coming to you, it's really important that you write them down because, you know, if you're anything like me, I've got a bloody awful memory, but you'll start noticing perhaps patterns, things that come to you, you know, there might be a relevance. Again, the book says that you might get a name and that name then might come up further down the line if someone's ill, and that might be a spirit healer or something. So the book makes a lot of interesting points. So now I'm writing everything down, and I want to talk about this more, binaural beats, but I've been using them a lot. If you don't know what binaural beats are, essentially the science behind it, and I think it goes back to, they were, actually I'm not even going to say when I think they came out because I can't remember exactly, but they've been around a few decades. Basically the science is if you play one frequency through one ear and a slightly different frequency through another, so for instance, if you wanted to achieve a delta brainwave state, which is the state associated with relaxation and sleep, you would play a delta frequency through one ear, slightly different frequency through another, and it sort of tricks your brain and gets you into that state. And I am having a lot of joy with them because they really help me to get into the zone. And the way I kind of look at binaural beats is they're a little bit of a trick. They allow you to kind of fast track your way to getting in the right brainwave state. I've actually got in a few episodes time coming out, the owner and founder of a company called Sacred Acoustics. And she, Sacred Acoustics is a company where I look at them as kind of the gold standard of binaural beats. And in the episode, she's going to talk all about the science behind them. She'll do it a lot more justice than I will, trust me. And it's a really interesting episode anyway. And I've been using Sacred Acoustics now for some time, and I'm having a lot of joy with them. So I know I've kind of rambled. I've sort of had so much to say about my mediumship lately, and I am going to keep doing videos as I find things with the intention really of helping all of you, because I know myself that, you know, the journey on mediumship is not an easy one. And I think as Simon James's book, Magician to Mystic explains, it's not a journey for the faint-hearted, but I'm feeling really determined. And actually last night I had such a crazy experience. I put one of these binaural beats tracks on, one of the Sacred Acoustics tracks, and literally I felt my body lifting up. I felt love pouring into my body like the brightest white light, and I could feel the presence of my granddad beside me, and I'm starting to come to believe that my granddad is actually one of my spirit guides. I didn't talk to him, I couldn't seem to have a conversation, but I felt his presence right by me. And the whole experience of this light pouring through me, again, it was like one of the best ever experiences I've ever had. It was just absolutely insane. So I feel like I've turned a bit of a corner recently with the mediumship. So I feel like I've got more to say, but I'm really conscious now that I've only got 10 more minutes until I'm meant to be at dinner, and this video was only meant to be a quick one, but there's just so much to say. But yes, anyway, thanks for watching, lots of love, and I'll speak to you later.